What is going on, world? What's up, YouTube? It's Zero here. Today I'm bringing you guys a brand new StarCraft 2 video. This one, guys, is all about the GOAT of StarCraft 2. So let's get into it. So guys, this is a debate that's going to go on for a very long time. Who is the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time? And that's what we're going to be talking about here today in this video. I'll give you guys my opinions, and I'll kind of try to back up the reasoning for me saying who I believe is the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. So guys, when you look at StarCraft 2, this is a game that has been out for a long time, right? So we've seen many different types of players with all kinds of different strategies and ways that they approach the game. So I think that we can certainly make a case for at least a few people as far as who is the greatest ever to play StarCraft 2. Some of these players have retired, others are still playing the game today, and so it's kind of hard to really, judge based on one in particular, like one particular thing. However, the GOAT debate is something that's spread around all over esports, but really all over traditional sports. We talk about Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. We talk about Tom Brady versus Joe Montana. Or we talk about Messi and Ronaldo against, Pele or versus Pele and all these different players in all these different sports, right? So why not talk about it in StarCraft 2? I think that it's a great debate to talk about, and I'd love to get your guys' feedback on this. So guys, I'm going to take you back to when I first started watching StarCraft 2. The players who I thought were some of the best from the very beginning, the beginning days of when StarCraft 2, kind of its inception of esports and such. I really liked guys like Root Kiwikaki, Select, who was in Dignitas, so Dignitas Select, and E.G. Idra. Those were three guys who I thought were absolutely incredible. And then as the game kind of progressed, we started seeing better and better players coming into the scene, and those guys started to not do quite as well against some of the other players as the game kind of evolved. And we started seeing into the heart of the swarm is where I really saw were a lot of really great players. However, there was one guy who really stood out in Heart of the Swarm, and that was Life. Life, guys, I believe, at the time that I was watching, StarCraft 2, around that time frame of Heart of the Swarm, he was, in my eyes, the greatest ever at StarCraft 2. He was a guy who was winning, tournament after tournament. He was, winning BlizzCon, which of course is like the Super Bowl of StarCraft esports. And so I always have said from the very beginning when I was watching Life that this guy could very well be the greatest that we'll ever see at StarCraft 2. Well, we're going to kind of go forward a little bit, and we're going to start talking about a couple of other guys. There's a guy named Innovation, there's a guy named Beyond, there's a guy named Rogue, and there's a guy named Cyril. And so with those up-and-comers that were up-and-coming, and we started watching them play as well, I gotta say, guys, it really comes down to a couple of players for myself. Innovation, I can't give him a pass for not being able to ever, he's never won BlizzCon, which is the big one. And guys, I know with esports, a lot of people think that it's structured way differently. And this was an argument that I've made about traditional, like if we compare traditional sports to esports, which is pretty much impossible, but I look at a game like StarCraft 2, you kind of compare the WCS circuit or just, GSL, whatever it might be, all the different tournaments that are scattered throughout the year. I kind of look at it as similar to football over in Europe, right? There's a lot of different tournaments throughout the year. You got the Champions League, you got the Premier League, you just have a lot of different tournaments, right? But the big one, guys, of course, is the World Cup. And I know that's every 4 years, so it's kind of hard to, kind of compare to it. However, BlizzCon, if you've never won BlizzCon, which is the championship, it automatically takes you out of that GOAT debate, in my eyes. And I believe the same with football. If you look at Messi as well as Ronaldo, they've never won the big one. They never won the World Cup, so it kind of taints their GOAT status versus a person like Pele. And like I said, guys, this is just my opinion, but that's how I kind of look at these things. So as far as StarCraft 2 is concerned, we look at all these different tournaments that these players have won, and all of the, all the guys that I just mentioned, they've won some tournament or another. But how many of them have won the big one? Well, we talk about Rogue, you can talk about Beyond, you can talk about Cyril, and you can talk about Life. Like, these are guys who have won at the highest level, and Life, guys, in my eyes, was the greatest ever. And, you know, I gotta say that we have to see more from Cyril in my eyes, because I believe Beyond, I felt like he could have just kept playing. If he did, I think that he had a good shot. Rogue is still playing and Cyril is still playing. So their story is still being written. Life right now is, you know, in my opinion, tied with Cyril as the greatest that ever played StarCraft 2. However, Cyril's story's not over yet, and if he wins another BlizzCon, I believe Cyril will be known as the greatest of all time. He's won multiple tournaments, and I think that his statistically is going to surpass Life in almost every category if he continues to play. So the story's still being written, but I gotta say, guys, Life and Cyril are the two guys, and the thing that taints Life's legacy, without a doubt, is the match-fixing incident, which, of course, this guy was at the top of his game, and he decided to, you know, match fix, which essentially, guys, for those of you who have not heard of this whole incident, I'm not going to get too much into it, but essentially he was paid to lose in StarCraft 2, so he cheated. So that taints a legacy substantially, and so when I look at someone like, you know, I guess if you go back to traditional sports, you look at someone like Tom Brady or the Patriots, who have been known and also have been caught cheating at times. It taints their legacy, and that there's just no question about it. Whether you agree with the allegations or not, it is, you know, it's going to taint their legacy, period. So I believe that it is going to taint Life's legacy long term, because I believe his career in StarCraft 2 ended way too soon, and I think that he could have been so much further ahead of everybody else as far as statistically speaking in StarCraft 2 had he not done that. So unfortunately, I think that he is going to get surpassed by Cyril. Cyril very well, guys, may be the greatest player that we have ever seen play the game of StarCraft 2, but I would love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about it? Think about this topic, the GOAT debate in StarCraft 2. Let's talk about it. I think it's a great thing to talk about, and I would love to hear from all of you guys. Who is your favorite player, but also who is the greatest player of all time in StarCraft 2? I definitely want to know from you guys, because as I've always said, is regardless of whether you think that, you know, Cyril's the greatest or not, you have to respect his game, and we are witnessing at least one of the greatest players of all time playing at the highest level right now. So I would love to hear what you guys think about that. Let me know in the comment section below. Subscribe if you're new, stay positive, and as always, I'll talk to you guys all in the next one. Peace.